with me. Let's wait for a few minutes, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, so we can get more people in the meeting, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to this month's Primetime Peace Starts With Me. I'm Rahman Pasha from New York, and I will be your moderator today. Before we set off on today's quest, let me tell you about some super cool programs we offer, because the fun never stops at MCNA and YMJ. Let's watch this video on a YMJ Institute.
YMJ Institute, an online Islamic learning platform for middle schoolers. Designed to empower students with a strong foundation in Islamic knowledge, our courses are tailored for young minds, and our experienced instructors ensure each lesson is interactive and impactful. We are currently offering 4 courses. Quranic Insight, a comprehensive study of the Quran, focusing on key concepts and vocabulary to develop a deep relationship with the sacred text. Leadership Time Capsule. Students will explore leadership lessons from the Seerah, Sahabas, and notable Muslim figures from history to develop their leadership skills. Matters of the Heart. This course emphasizes how to purify our hearts, develop sincerity, and understand the connection between beliefs, desires, and spiritual growth. Living Islam, Fiqh. The course teaches essential fiqh, focusing on physical purification, worship, ethics, and building positive relationships, encouraging students to embrace the diversity within Islamic traditions. Join YMJ Institute, empowering the next generation of Muslim leaders.
Primetime for Kids, a free monthly program where we talk about fun and important topics like entrepreneurship, boredom, and time management. Sometimes we even offer primetime for parents too. MCNA also offers youth courses during the spring and fall. Our last program was Journey Around the Globe, in which we explored different Muslim countries around the world. YMJ Book Club. In the spring and fall, if you love reading and you're 11 or 13, this is the place for you. Join us as we explore amazing books together. Please contact your local chapter for further details. MCNA's Children Magazine, Companion, a nationwide magazine for kids, written by kids. If you love writing, drawing, sharing ideas, no need to look further. We eagerly look for and accept new contributions from our young artists and authors. Email us at mcna@icna.org or contact your local MCNA-YMJ chapter for our next theme. Send your work to companion@icna.org for a chance to be featured in our next issue. We want to hear from you. Have any feedback or ideas? Email us at mcna@icna.org or contact your local MCNA-YMJ chapter. MCNA-YMJ has many local chapters across the United States. For more information, visit our website and click on the chapter locator at www.mcnaymj.org. Stay connected, subscribe to our MCNA-YMJ YouTube channel to watch our past programs and never miss a new upload. Follow on Facebook and Instagram for more updates. You can take a picture and subscribe after the program. Let's start today's program with a Quran recitation. أعوذ أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم تبت يدا أبي لهب وتب ما أغنى عنه ماله وما كسب سيصلى نارا ذات لهب وامرأته حمالة الحطب في جيدها حبل من مسد. Now let me introduce you to today's guest speaker, Sister Madiha Ashraf. Our speaker today is a licensed professional counselor based in Texas, currently pursuing her PhD in marital and family counseling. She specializes in helping children, teens, and families build emotional resilience in a compassionate faith in an inclusive environment. Now, with that introduction, I'll hand it off to Sister Madiha Ashraf.
Assalamualaikum, everyone. I hope you guys are all doing well today, inshallah. I'm really excited to do this with you guys. I love working with kids. It's a big part of what I do every day. So it's always a big honor, alhamdulillah, whenever, organizations like, IGNA reach out to kind of help, the youth. So I know that for this past month, bullying has been kind of the overall theme. And inshallah, today I'm going to be talking about how peace can start with me, right? So I'll go ahead and start presenting. Right. Will you guys be presenting or do you want me to do it? Okay. Alrighty. All right. So we'll go ahead and get started. All right. So peace starts with me, a journey to kindness, respect, and mental wellness. So a big part of what I do is, I have people come in day to day, and, with therapy, a big part of that is talking about our emotions, our feelings, and what that may look like in our day to day, right? With working with children, a lot of times bullying is a big topic that we talk about, right? And, I always say when there are terms like bullying and, these popular words, sometimes we really don't know what the definition is and we don't know what actual bullying may look like, right? So bullying in very broad terms is when somebody hurts you or scares you or leaves you out on purpose, right? It's not just a one-time thing. It happens multiple times and it's meant to harm you, right? They're trying to hurt you. And it can be done through words, actions, online when people may say mean things about you or post weird photos and things of that sort. So bullying can happen in many different ways. But again, what defines it as bullying is when it is purposeful and it's done with the intention to hurt you and it happens multiple times. So there's 4 types of bullying. The first one is physical bullying. So this is, the one that we see a lot, which is just physically hurting somebody with your actions. That includes like if you're walking down the hall and someone tries to, trip you, or like they push you into the wall, or they may, do these things behind the teacher's back where it's not like they're punching you really, but they're doing small things to hurt you, right? It could also look like them taking your stuff away. So if you've ever seen people, like if you've ever been sitting on your desk and someone comes and just swipes everything off your desk, that can also be considered bullying. Again, it is done with the intention to harm you or hurt you, right? Verbal bullying is using our words, using hurtful or harmful words. This could include name calling or constantly teasing you or putting you down, or using any sort of slurs. That can really hurt your feelings. And again, it's done multiple times. So sometimes they may create a nickname for you that you don't like, and they may use that repeatedly, even though you ask them to stop. Social bullying is when a bunch of kids get together or a group of kids get together and they're purposely leaving you out or ignoring you, right? It's usually intentionally done to avoid someone, and it's sharing information that should be kept private, right? So sometimes maybe you told somebody a secret and then they go tell everybody your secret, even though you asked them not to. But again, they're doing it on purpose to hurt you. It's not like somebody went and, just went and told a secret to tell a secret. It is done with the intention of trying to harm you. And it usually means that, a lot of times if you want to play with them, or if you want to go and hang out with them outside of school, they may pretend to be your friend at school, but then when they're outside, they're not talking to you and they're not like, really engaging with you outside of that. So you kind of feel alone. Right. A lot of times, one by one, every person in the class doesn't talk to you anymore because, again, one person is instigating all of that, and it can cause you to feel alone and isolated. Cyberbullying is the one that's done online, right? So this is whenever like you're on your Instagram, or you're on these different social media websites and you post a photo and somebody comments a mean thing about you, right? Or they screenshot something that you posted on your story and then they're passing it around and making fun of it, right? And again, this is done with the intention to cause you harm. This can be done by, even starting like text message chains without you. So if there's a whole group message chain that's happening and they keep you out of it, sometimes like maybe you're in public and they take a picture of you and you didn't know they were taking a picture of you and then they share that. It can be done in a lot of different ways, but cyberbullying sometimes can be a lot more detrimental just because, with the other ones, a lot of times when it's done in person, you can see the effects that it can have on somebody. But when I'm behind a screen, I don't see how my words and actions are really hurting somebody else. So a lot of times, cyberbullying can be more intense and harder to address. So let's talk about mental health, and let's talk about the effects of bullying on your mental health, right? So just like we have our physical health, like we have to make sure that we're eating well and exercising and, sleeping on time. Our mental health is how we kind of discuss our brain capacity, right? So a lot of times you could be eating well and sleeping on time, but in your head, there are thoughts that make you feel sad, or they make you feel lonely or anxious at times, right? And your mental health can directly be affected by your environment. So if you're going to school every day and there's a bully there who's constantly like, throwing your lunch on the ground or pushing you into the lockers, or, starting fake rumors about you, or, sending these mean photos about you online, that's going to make you feel very anxious. It's going to make you feel very sad. It's going to be very hurtful for you. Um, when our mental health suffers, a lot of times it can lower us our self-esteem. And our self-esteem is basically our confidence, right? So how I see myself, how I, portray myself. A lot of times it causes somebody to feel insecure, or they, kind of have these qualities about themselves that they keep questioning, right? And it could be anything. It could be something like maybe your nose, or it could be something like the way you talk or the way you write, sometimes if you're very smart and you are really good in school, sometimes that can be picked on as well. And it can make something good feel like it's bad, right? A lot of times, wherever the bully is, it can make that place feel unsafe. So a lot of times kids get bullied at school, and it can make school feel unsafe. So a lot of times maybe like you're feeling good, but then you wake up in the morning and you just don't want to go to school. You might have a headache. You might be feeling, like an upset stomach. You don't have a fever. You were fine yesterday, but this morning you woke up and you're just not feeling it. Usually that's a symptom of anxiety. And that means, that maybe the school isn't a safe place for you, or you're trying to avoid going to school because you don't want to deal with your bully, right? This can have an effect on your grades. A lot of times, when we're doing this, we can't focus in school, right? Because we're so worried about the bully and what they're saying and what they're doing. It can cause you to not be able to sleep at night, because you're so worried about what they're going to do the next day. So we always have to remember that when we hurt others, we are also hurting our hearts and our peace inside, right? I always say hurt people, right? So a lot of times, if you are hurt, you know, we don't recognize this, but we can kind of continue that cycle by hurting other people. So the biggest thing to do when we get hurt is to address it internally, like inside of ourselves, so that we don't continue that cycle, right? And this goes back into what is in my control and what's not in my control, right? I can't control another person, but I can control how I choose to react to them, right? I can't control another person, but I can control my actions, right? So if I see that there is another kid being left out, then what can I do? I can go and, reach out to them and say, hey, you know what? I know they're leaving you out, but you come with me. Let's go hang out. Let's go to recess. Let's play together. You can sit with me on my lunch table, right? So hurt people. But what is in my control is that I can break the cycle and not perpetuate it, right? I can choose not to continue it. So let's talk about the Sunnah and what the Sunnah of kindness says, right? So in Sahih Bukhari, it says that none of you truly believes until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself, right? And what that essentially comes down to is treat others the way you want to be treated, right? If you don't want somebody to throw your books on the ground, then don't throw anyone else's books on the ground. If you don't like, if somebody would say, hey, you can't sit next to me at this table and isolate you, then don't do that to another person, right? Be kind, be gentle, and be fair. It's a part of our faith, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, always told us that we are equal in his eyes, right? So it doesn't matter who you are in this dunya, right? To Allah, we are all the same. We are all equal, right? So um, whenever we look at it in that way, I have no right to think that I'm better than somebody. I don't think I have any right to think that I'm more powerful than somebody, right? Or more stronger than somebody, because Allah will always view me and that person as the same thing, right? So if you don't like some of these things happening to you, then don't do it to another person, right? That is what goes back into our hands, what is in your control. And that's what the Sunnah and Islam teaches us, right? So, you know, and in the Quran, Allah talks to us about the words we use and how we speak, right? So He wants us to always use our good words for good, right? Um, they say the tongue is the thing that's going to lead a lot of people into the hellfire, and it's because backbiting happens. We say some things that we can't take back, right? So a lot of times we have to think about what we say before we say it. Even if it's a joke, even if you didn't mean to hurt somebody's feelings, if you do end up hurting someone's feelings and they tell you that, then you really have to do a good job of apologizing to them, right? And making sure that you recognize that I'm not trying to hurt you, right? A lot of times, I think even in friend groups, I see that, when we're all hanging out together, we might we might riff on one another, like we might just pick on one kid and it's a joke, right? We're just being funny. But sometimes, again, we don't realize that if we do it often enough, it can be very hurtful to other people, right? Or it can be very hurtful to that person. So instead of picking on one person or making these little jokes here and there, please be mindful that if I do it often, and if I notice that that person's is not enjoying that joke anymore, then maybe I shouldn't take it, or maybe I shouldn't say it, right? And it's always good to check in with friends and say, hey, I know I said this earlier. I just want to make sure that you understood that it was a joke. I wasn't meaning to hurt you by any chance. And if that friend says, hey, maybe you weren't trying to hurt me, but it did hurt me, then immediately your job is to apologize, right? So I think it's better safe than sorry, right? So try your best to not make fun of your friends. Try your best to, always speak kindly of them and speak kindly to them, because we never know how our words may affect somebody, even if they weren't meant to be, in a hurtful way. So, what do we do if you see bullying happening, right? So, if you see bullying happening, first and foremost, you have to speak up kindly, right? You can tell the bully to stop if it's safe for you, right? So, if your friend happens to be the one that's the bully and you know that they listen to you, then you can say to your friend, hey, man, leave them alone. Why are you doing that? Right? It's not good. It's not nice. So if you're in a position where you can speak up and you can talk to somebody and you can open, and be able to address these things with that person, please do so. right? You're standing up for somebody. That is a good thing to do. It's going to be hasanat on your side. And more importantly, you're going to help another person who may be getting hurt stop from getting hurt, right? Um, Standing with the person being hurt. So again, if you see isolation happening, right? If you see people are purposely leaving another kid in the class out, or if you see that this person is being really mean to this person, or you see another person like throw that kid stuff, right? Helping the kid pick up their things, standing with them, making sure that you are around them. So when they're alone, when they're not alone, the bullying will kind of stop, right? So you have to show them that you are on their side and that you are there to help them and not harm them. Also, it helps to tell an adult. I know a lot of times when we tell adults, a lot of kids feel that it gets worse, especially when it comes to, a teacher or a counselor at school or a parent. Because, like sometimes what happens is when I tell my mom or dad or when I tell my teacher, they're going to then eventually go talk to the person that's bullying me. And when they do that, sometimes it makes the situation a little worse, right? Sometimes it feels like because that bully now found out, they stopped for a few days, but then now they're doing it again, but they're doing it in more secret and they're doing it in a much more harmful way. So it's very important that if they continue to do that after you've told an adult, that you keep telling that adult, right? It doesn't mean that you stop talking to the adult. It means that you need to let them know that, hey, after you spoke with them, it didn't work and they actually got meaner, right? Um, the worst thing that you could do, guys, is join in or laugh, right? So if you see somebody that like got their stuff thrown, right? You don't laugh at that. Don't encourage that because a lot of times the bully's going to do this to have an audience, right? And that's where they get their strength from. So if nobody's going to stand up for this person, then what's going to happen is that the bully's going to feel encouraged to do more and more and more and more. And at the end of the day, we don't want anybody to get hurt or feel hurt, right? So if you can't stop it, if you can't talk to an adult, if you feel like you can't stand up for them, the very least thing you could do is to not join in or laugh at that person, right? And obviously pray for the strength to do the right thing, right? I always tell my clients sometimes doing the right thing means doing the hard thing, right? So it's hard to stand up against everybody and say, hey, that's not funny, don't do that, right? It's very hard to do that, especially if sometimes that means that you're putting yourself on the line to protect another person and what they're doing to them might come to you as well. But it's the right thing to do, right? So again, sometimes doing the right thing means doing the hard thing. So we always pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the strength to stay on the right path and always choose the right thing to do. So let's talk about inner peace, right? So a lot of times, like I said, hurt people hurt people. If you have ever felt angry, right? Sometimes when we are angry, we are not the best versions of ourselves, right? So we may say things out of anger and we may do things out of anger that hurt another person, right? So the first thing that we need to do is remember to calm ourselves down and find our inner peace, right? So remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making dhikr when you're upset is a great way for you to find your inner peace, right? Because if I'm constantly making dhikr with my tongue, right? The last thing I'm doing is I'm talking ill about somebody or being mean to someone, right? Because I'm busy constantly remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Sometimes it is you feel overwhelmed. You might feel tired. You might feel like I don't know what to do. And you might feel like you can't even like take a breath, right? So when that happens, it's about removing yourself from the situation and trying your best to take a few deep breaths, which I'll show you in a little bit on how to properly do that and say bismillah before reacting to something, right? So sometimes part of this is like what does the person that's getting hurt do, right? Sometimes the person that's getting hurt wants to fight back, right? But you fight fire with fire, it's only going to cause a bigger fire. So sometimes part of finding my inner peace is not to respond or to retaliate to that person because it might encourage that behavior, right? Because the more response they get, the more likely they are to continue that, right? And again, if it's not happening to you, but it's happening to somebody you know, then standing with that person being hurt. Sometimes it's not about like telling an adult, but it's just helping that kid understand that, hey, I'm here. I see what they're doing. It's not okay. Right? So again, in Bukhari, the Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, the strong person is not the one who overcomes others by his strength, but the one who controls himself in anger, right? And there's countless hadiths where the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentions our anger and how it can be a negative thing, right? So I always tell people that feeling angry is very human, right? It is not wrong to be angry. It's what we do with our anger that can be viewed as something that I did wrong or right, you know? So if I'm angry and I'm upset and I say things and I do hurtful things to somebody, then yeah, in that moment, I did a wrong action, right? But if I'm angry and I choose to remove myself from that situation, I choose to sit back, I choose to take a few deep breaths and control my anger before talking to somebody, right? I am doing what I need to do in order to control my anger. So I'm not, lashing out at somebody, right? There's different kinds of strength, you guys. There's not just physically not being physically strong, right? Sometimes it's about controlling my emotions. Sometimes it's about me standing up for somebody and reacting in a way that may put myself in danger, but it's the right thing to do, right? And often, guys, when it comes to bullying, usually it occurs when that person is alone. Okay, so it's usually when they're just by themselves, they don't have anybody around them. Do they usually face a lot of these bullying behaviors? So you just standing with the person, you just walking with that person to class, sitting next to them at lunch, or you sitting next to them in class can help, just alleviate some of the bullying that's already happening. Because when they're around other people, they're less likely to do that or face that on their own. So I want you guys to take a few minutes and think about, when was a time that someone made you feel supported? What are some things you can do this week to make someone else feel included? And how calm you feel yourself when you feel angry or hurt. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. If you guys on your side, could you please have the PowerPoint on with that slide up, please? It's slide 10. Thank you. Okay. Does
YMJ Institute, an online Islamic learning platform for middle schoolers. Designed to empower students with a strong foundation in Islamic knowledge, our courses are tailored for young minds, and our experienced instructors ensure each lesson is interactive and impactful. We are currently offering 4 courses. Quranic Insight, a comprehensive study of the Quran, focusing on key concepts and vocabulary to develop a deep relationship with the sacred text. Leadership Time Capsule, Students will explore leadership lessons from.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. But does anybody want to share? Let's see. Okay, so let's see in the chat. It says, "How I calm myself is by taking and letting, by talking and letting my anger out, or taking deep breaths." Right. So, believe it or not, a lot of people don't know how to take a deep breath. Right. So I'm going to show you guys how to take a deep breath. Right. It's a little bit different than what you see. So I'm just going to step back a little. Okay. So what we have to do is first, when we sit, imagine that there is a string attached to my head and it's being pulled, right? So what that means is I have to sit with my shoulders back, right? My back needs to be straight like this, right? And we take our hands and we put them on our knees, kind of like we do in Salah, right? And in that moment, I want you to breathe in through your nose, right? And exhale through your mouth. Now, when we are breathing in, I want you to breathe in. A lot of people do this, right? They go, right? That's not a deep breath, right? What a deep breath looks like is when you take a deep breath, your chest needs to expand and you kind of keep breathing in, breathing in, breathing in until it kind of hurts a little, like your lungs can't go any bigger, right? And then you slowly exhale and you exhale out like you're blowing out birthday candles, right? So, what it's going to look like is, right? So feet firmly planted on the ground, back straight, shoulders back, hands on my knees, in through my nose. And I exhale through my mouth, right? So that's how you take a proper deep breath. A lot of times when we are angry, it helps to kind of do an exercise with it. So in counseling, right, we call it grounding, right? So if you're ever feeling a little anxious, if you're ever feeling a little worried or scared or angry, what you can do is you can do a few grounding techniques so that you don't feel overwhelmed, right? So what that looks like is, as I'm taking a deep breath, I'm counting to 4 in my head. So as I'm inhaling, I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I can hold my breath for another 4 seconds. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I exhale for 4 seconds, right? We call that the box method. So you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 4 seconds, and then you exhale in 4 seconds, right? That allows me to focus on my counting instead of whatever's bothering me, and it brings me back to the here and now. The other thing that you can do while you are when you're taking a deep breath is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. So that's basically your 5 senses, right? So 5 things that I can see, 4 things that I can touch, right? 3 things that I hear, 2 things that I can smell, 1 thing that I can taste, right? And it allows you again to kind of go back and bring yourself back to the here and now. Because sometimes when we're having anxiety or sometimes when we're having anger, we're kind of living in our head, right? So it's hard for us to get out of here. So when I do the deep breathing, it allows you to calm down and bring you back to the here and now, right? Can somebody share what can you do this week to make someone else feel included in the chat? Anybody want to share? Okay, or if anybody wants to share how they calm themselves down when they're feeling angry or hurt, or when was a time that someone made you feel supported as well? Okay, so to make someone else feel included, I can look for lonely people during recess and chat with them. Yeah, that's a great idea. So if you're ever walking around during recess and you see someone's just, by themselves, they don't really have anybody to play with, just going up to them and, saying salam or saying hi with a smile, because, smiling is sunnah, can be something that makes that person feel seen, right? Inviting them to play with you is another way that you can make them feel included, right? Yeah, so if someone's sitting alone, I can ask them to play. That's a great answer. Um, what are some other ways that you can make someone feel supported? I can include people by inviting them to sit with me at lunch. That's a great one, because there's a lot of times that lunchtime is very difficult because at least in class we have assigned seating, right? But when it comes to lunch, sometimes people do feel left out because, everyone's in their groups and sometimes they don't have anybody to sit with, and it can be a very lonely time for them. So if you see somebody by themselves and you tell them, hey, come sit next to me, that's a very kind thing for you to do. Anybody wanna share a time that they felt supported? Like, if you ever felt alone or if you were ever bullied yourself, was there ever a time that somebody came and helped you or supported you? Okay, someone responded to, the making someone else feel, included. They said, "I can help them if they don't have any people to play with, then I can play with them." Yep, that's a good one. Whenever we feel worried, we can calm ourselves down by thinking that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching us and He will help us out. That's a really good one. Allah's always watching, right? So, sometimes people feel like nobody's seeing me, nobody's like, stepping up for me, nobody's seeing the pain that I'm going through. But we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always watching us, right? And Allah sees our pain, Allah sees the hurt that we go through. And Allah's gonna help us get through it, inshallah, right? So making dhikr, taking deep breaths, removing yourself from situations, these are all good ways that you can calm yourself down when you're feeling hurt or angry, right? And even when you feel alone, reminding yourself that we're not really alone, right? We have our angels with us. We have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with us. And let's say maybe school's a bad place for us. Let's say we don't have a lot of friends at school, right? But maybe outside of school, I have a lot of friends at the masjid or at Sunday school. I have my parents, my siblings at home that love me, that want me there, my cousins. So sometimes it helps to just think outside of just that situation, and think about who in my life loves me, who in my life is there for me. And just because I'm having a hard time with friends at school doesn't always mean that I will always feel unsafe at school, or sorry, I doesn't always mean that I'm alone, right? I do have people in my life that love me. I do have friends and family that are there for me, right? Going back to the chat, I can also help someone who maybe is carrying a ton of stuff because a lot of people have a lot of stuff. Yeah, that's a good one. I felt supported the first 2 weeks of school at lunch. That's really nice. I always feel supported and safe in school. I feel supported and understood everywhere. That's really great for you. I'm really happy to hear that. Um, if we could go to the next slide, please. Okay. So always remember that, peace starts with you. your words, your heart, and your action. So let's build a community where everyone feels seen and valued and loved for the sake of Allah, right? So we always want to make dua to Allah that He makes us a source of happiness for others, and He guides us to spread kindness and joy wherever we go, right? We don't want to be the bullies, right? We don't want to be the people that are causing harm to other people. We always want to be the people that, inshallah, bring happiness and bring joy to other people's life, right? We want to be a relief for somebody. We don't want to be a source of pain from somebody. And, you know, it's always starts with me, right? Remember, I can't control anybody else. The only person that I can control is me. So if I don't want to be harmed, if I don't want to feel alone, I should see if there's somebody alone and go make them feel not alone, right? Go with them, go hang out with them. If I felt hurt by anybody's words, I need to be extra cautious of what I say because I know that words can hurt. If, someone's ever broken my property or, thrown my stuff down, I know how that could feel, right? So I'm going to try my best to not do that to somebody else, right? If someone ever left a mean comment on my photo or said something mean to me online, I'm going to try my best when I'm online to not leave comments like that, right? So it starts with me. I can't change everyone, but I can change myself. And who knows, maybe by you changing yourself, other people will feel inspired, right? And they will change with you as well. Um, so give me next slide. We're gonna do an activity, and this we'll wrap up with this. But in the chat again, maybe write down or share one kind thing that you did this week. So if everyone could remember back to one kind thing that they may have done this week. I know it's only Tuesday, but this week or last week that you would like to share, please share in the chat. Anybody want to share a kind thing they've done this week? I helped someone with classwork in math. That's nice. I helped the younger grades in their classrooms. I put the lost ID in the attendance office so the owner can retrieve it. These are all such nice and kind things that you guys have done. It's really nice. I helped my grandma with a cooking contest. It was a ton of work. I'm sure your grandma was so grateful for you helping them. That's very kind of you. Anybody else want to share a kind thing? Nobody else? Oh, okay. I helped my friend study. That's really nice of you. That's a very kind thing to do. So, do you see how when we're helping other people, we're also, allowing other people to, be be better, right? So just because I have something that I'm good at, maybe I'm really good in math, right? And I know my friend is struggling in math, you kind of helping them and helping them learn. That's a great way for you not to only build yourself up, but to help other people up, right? I put bird food and water for the birds. That's really sweet of you. One kind thing is I went to school and one kid spilled their lunch and I helped them clean it all up. That's very kind of you to do as well. We have a lot of kind people here today. I helped my mom and I also gave gifts I made for my teachers. Aw, I'm sure they loved your gifts. But thank you guys so much for having me here today, inshallah. I hope that you guys learned some things from us, and remember that peace starts with me. Assalamu alaikum.
MashaAllah, Sister Madiha, that was very thought-provoking. What touched my heart is that peace doesn't come from others, it begins with me and how I choose to act. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. If you've missed and you would like to watch any of our previous sessions or series, you can find their recordings on MCNA's Facebook and YouTube channels. Jazakallah khair everyone, and see you in the next session inshallah. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.